Welcome, welcome, one and all. Greetings, greetings. Hope everybody is good. Justin, lawful greetings. Welcome. Yeah, man. We're gonna get started shortly. Give a few more people a little time to join. And then we're gonna get into it. Alright, so we got that. think we have what we need. Sasha, lawful greetings. Welcome. Welcome everybody. Kem, lawful greetings. Welcome. It is that time again. I know I am not usually here on a Friday, but it is necessary. It is absolutely necessary. And today we're going to be diving into this word right here, immunity. Immunity is one of those words that has over time caused the people injustice. You know, when we have a system that we call a lawful system, but the law does not apply to everyone equally, that is what we would simply call injustice, right? Injustice and justice cannot be in the same basket, right? We can't say we have a system of justice and a system of law when the same system allows injustice and unlawful actions for one side, and the other side it is considered immunity, or it is considered shielded action, or it is considered lawful under some other law. It don't make sense. It is cherry picking who the law will apply to, right? And in Jamaica, we know say, one heap of time we see things happen and nothing no come out of it. But then when a regular person end up in a them situation, they quick and fast. They reach in a jail, they reach in a court, they reach all over the place. Them name get dragged through the mud, they end up all over the place. For the regular common individual who know nothing about law, dog name your supper if you're there at the wrong place at the wrong time and the wrong people them try to incriminate you. So we can't say we really have a system of justice, a justice system. Because if we did, the law would apply to everybody, everywhere, all the time. Not when you're off duty, whether you're on duty. As a matter of fact, those on duty should have a higher standard of justice than those off duty. Because how can we have a system that those who are claiming to be maintaining public order are breaking the laws to enforce public order? Those kinds of things we have to look at from a larger perspective. We can't look at it individually, right? If we have a complete system that ignores the wrongdoing of those who are enforcing the law and penalize those who are subject to the law, it is unlawful. It is just that plain and simple. It is not a system of law. It is not a system of justice. It is just a system of rules, a system of arbitrary rules. And I know using the term arbitrary when it comes to the system of law is a big thing, right? It is a very broad claim, but it is simply substantiated. We don't have an equality of the law in the system. No system at all, whether it be Jamaica, Canada, England, US, India, nowhere do we actually have a true system of equality under the law. We don't. What we have is the colonial underpinnings of a framework that many nations, or if you want to call them countries, they are not the same. Many nations will say, okay, this is our legal system and that is what we are working with, right? And really and truly, we are not in a better place than we were in 1962. We are not in a better place than we were 200 years ago. Just because we have technology and just because we have houses that look a little bit better, houses that are a little bit bigger, just because we have phone and TV and technology, that does not make our situation any better than it was 300, 400, even 60 years ago. Eagle King, lawful greetings, welcome. Why do we say that? Why do we say our lives are not much better than, let's say, 300 years ago? Right? If the system that we are using still has the foundations of slavery, the laws that applied in slavery are still being applied today, how can we truly say we have a true system of law? As a matter of fact, we have more restrictions now than we did back in colonial times. I am not talking about slavery. Obviously, slaves had very little rights, right? Very little freedom of movement and so forth. I am talking about after slavery was abolished and people were allowed to claim lands and to build them houses and build them communities and so forth. We are not much better off when it comes to the law. We have, and I went over this on my page about 3 weeks ago, where we talk about freedom of speech and the law that goes to profanity, right? Obscene language or derogatory language in public. Now, the police today will attempt to lock you up if them say you cuss bad word on the road. You cuss bad word in public. They will try to lock you up under, I think it's the Town and Communities Act. And there are other acts as well. And those acts of Parliament, are prior to the Constitution. Now, when the Constitution comes around and the Constitution was enacted and the amendment allowed for freedom of speech, because that wasn't a thing before. When you have freedom of speech and you have this older law that is now in conflict and the police decides to use the Act of Parliament instead of the Constitution itself, we fall into what you call a gray area of law. Now, it has to be litigated in a court for the court to determine whether or not the old law is in conflict with the new law, even if it is commonsensical, even if it is in your face that it is clear the old law is in contravention of the new law, or in contravention of the Constitution, because the Constitution is now considered the highest law in the land, which is the constitutional framework, right? Even though it is clear enough, the court will still say they have to go through it and they have to see. They have to see if there is a breach. They have to see to what extent. They have to see this and they have to see that, even when it is abundantly clear for something that you don't have to go digging. It is in front of all of our faces. The Constitution says you have freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And this old law says you cannot say certain things in public. Now, the more egregious thing is this. When you have a conflict in the law like that, it is not rushed. It is not given priority to say, let us look at this thing as a whole immediately, because this will undoubtedly violate the rights of people. No, it is going through the mill of the system. Click, click, clock, clock. There is no priority given to see if the old law or if there is a conflict in the law if somebody brings it up. No, there is no separate court that is going to take priority on this and move it through the system as fast as humanly possible to make sure that they take a look at it immediately. No, there is no public discussion. There is nothing other than you go through the normal court process and the court makes a decision when they feel like it. Because the fact is, we don't have any eyes into the machinery of the courts. We don't have any eyes into the calendaring schedule and how things are being run. We only see the public side of what is in front of us. What is coming up for the next week or for the next month. We don't see how any of these things are being put together and how they are prioritized. Hi Chief Rich, lawful greetings, welcome. So today we're going to talk about immunity. Now, immunity is a very interesting topic because it is largely not spoken about in law. The only time you really hear about it is when you go to court. And the court will readily say, for example, the police has what's called qualified immunity. David, lawful greetings, welcome. Right? And qualified immunity means that once an official or a public servant is on duty and they are doing their job within the confines of their duty-bound actions, then they cannot be sued because they are acting in their official capacity and they did not break any laws. So unless you can prove that the constable or the officer breaks a law, you have evidence to show and you can present your case properly, you can't sue the officer then. If you can't prove that, the burden of proof is going to be on you to prove that. And not only that they break the law, you know, that is not enough. You see, for you, if a regular individual, it is enough to have a little bit of evidence to show that you break the law. But you see, when it comes to suing a constable, not only do you have to prove that they break the law, you have to prove that you were damaged as a result. So you have a greater burden of proof than a public official. So when we say the law is not equal, we don't have equality of the law. It is very clear every single day. As a matter of fact, like a lot of people witness and experience, you have to go to every single court mentioned date. But the constable does not. The constable don't show up, them set a new date. If you don't show up one time, what happened? Bench warrant. Bench warrant. Now, if they find you up on the road and you have a bench warrant, you know, say, yeah, get locked up. Most likely, you are going to spend the night in jail if they not catch you early. Right? Then, if the constable don't show up, and you don't know the law, you don't know what to do, the constable can waltz in if and when he want to, until the case get dismissed. And this is why we say come to class, because I see so many people online complaining about, oh, you have to go to court so much time for the one ticket and you waste so much time in money and gas and buying lunch and or you have to take much in taxi for reach a what place for pay one little foolish ticket. That's why a lot of people don't want to go into the courts. But October 1st, one shall know if we not going to do that and sit down there, try pay a ticket and go about your day. It will no longer work. But anyways, when you don't show up, what? You get prosecuted. You are hunted like a wanted man. When the constable don't show up, it is brushed off as he's on duty, he's at work, we could not find him, he wasn't served, we couldn't locate him at the time or before the hearing, we have to try again. We have to see if there is any record that he was served. We have to see if he was available. We have to see if he is in the area. We have to see, we have to check. We have to see if there are any records of when the notice was sent out and when and if the subpoena got somewhere and all of them. So, all the excuses in the book, but make you miss one court date and see what happened. You feel the blunt of the blow. Right? This is why we say come to class. Because I now tell you how to resolve that situation. To stop go court 3, 4, and 5 times. A matter of fact, 2 times is enough. That's it. You don't need to be going into court 3, 4, and 5 times. Come to class. Anyways, back to immunity. Where does this thing of immunity come from? Remember, we talked about this before now. Our system of law is still the British system of law. It is not a new concept. It is not a new system of law. We inherited the system the slave masters used. We inherited it. And it is still in place. So the same thing them used to do, now we are doing it to ourselves. Or more accurately put, we still have it in place. And I say we because enough people don't realize we are actually allowing these things to happen. Apothecary, lawful greetings, welcome. So, let us take a look at a document that is talking about diplomatic immunity, right? Diplomatic immunity. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. So this is the origins of where the first diplomatic immunity came about. It says in early times, before there existed any concept of diplomatic status or diplomatic immunity as such, the need existed for one sovereign to communicate with another. And again, all them do is turn over the management to the house slaves. Hey, and me say it. Now again, we talk about the sovereign before, right? A sovereign is not a person in everyday regular society. That is not a sovereign. A sovereign is someone who claims some kind of inherent power, right? And they are in a position of power, or they get assented votes, or they get assented power from a group. So a group would have say, all right, we want this person to lead us. That individual would now become the sovereign of the group, right? Or in this case, the crown is not claiming sovereignty from any group of people. Then just claim, say, a God ordained them figure rule. That is how them claim for them sovereignty. But anyways, here it says diplomatic immunity existed for one sovereign to communicate with another, to make treaties, and generally to transact such business as might be necessary. These communications were made by way of diplomatic missions, which meant that the sovereign chose a favored person or persons to go to a foreign state with a specific purpose, right? So basically, them pick somebody who them are going to say, listen, no laws are going to apply to you. But we are going to read further. TikTok police, lawful greetings, welcome. Often the sovereign would use priests and monks to undertake his mission, and if he did, their status of vir religiosus was sufficient to ensure their safety. In all other cases, the practice was for the sovereign to issue a safe conduct to the foreign sovereign or his envoy, such as the letters patent of October 30, 1200. Now, we're going to pause here for a second. Because, many times I get people either on the comment sections of the video, or they would come on the live and they ask certain questions. And I sometimes will explain to people that I cannot disclose certain things online. So you see something like a letters patent, and people who would talk about land patents and things like that, allodial title and things like that. And I say to you, I cannot disclose those types of information. When you are reading literature, old literature like this, you will come across some of these terms. And instead of people looking them up to see what does this mean, how does this remain in context, they will now run to someone else to ask the question to get a quick answer. And oftentimes the quick answer is not enough. You have to read things in context, right? What I just showed you was where this diplomatic immunity thing come from. And while you go through these things, you will realize that much of the things that people are claiming, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, those things will not work. Because the current system does not allow it. There is no mechanism for you to have any kind of direct access to some of the things that you're asking about, right? But again, just me answering yes or no is not going to satisfy the reason why you should not be doing certain things or claiming certain things, right? And people are gullible and in need of a quick fix from gurus. Hey, boy, I'm not going to call anybody a guru still, But here what I'm going to say. You see, before me come about, Dr. J, yeah man, greetings. You see, before me come about on TikTok and I talk and I explain things, people did have problems before that. You see, after me come on TikTok and I explain and I teach, people did still have problems. And up to this point, the problem them still there. There are always things that we need to work on. So you see, when somebody run to me and I say, boy, me get one ticket, or say me have the situation or whatever, my first words out of my mouth is, I am not a lawyer and you can't hire me. You can't pay me to represent you. I am not doing it. Anybody who is in a rush, as them say, a fool will depart with his money quickly whenever he tries to get immediate advice. Because anybody can tell you anything. And it sounds so good because you are in this bind. And when it don't work, you say all of these things don't work. Because you don't know what you do. You don't know what the person do for you or what the person tell you say. And now, you start blaming everybody for your downfall. Right? So, if you're not willing to learn, this channel is not for you. Certainly not. Because me certainly not going to be taking on anybody's problem. And certainly, I never have the time for nobody to call me. Those of you who know me know I don't have the time. Alright? So, back to this concept of immunity. Alright? Now, some of these things show up from time to time in the news. It shows up from time to time on different websites and so forth. Let us take a look at one such instance where the news, like The Guardian in the UK, is talking about what does the Queen's legal immunity mean. Right? So let's take a look at what they are saying. So let's take a look at what they are saying here. Michael, lawful greetings. Welcome. What is sovereign immunity? Sovereign immunity is a centuries-old doctrine. Now, what is a doctrine? You see, when you book up on them word here, it sounds like English, but you don't know what it is. You just select it, you right-click, and you search. Because you have to know what you are reading. Don't use common sense alone. Common sense don't work in law. I said this many times. Don't use common sense when you start reading anything and it have a legal word. A doctrine is a formal set of beliefs, teachings, or established principles adopted or taught by a group, organization, or field of study. Let us look at the legal definition of what a doctrine is. We're going to come back to our topic at hand, but let us pull up in our legal dictionary what is a doctrine. Let us head over to the Black's Law Dictionary, right? What is a doctrine? Damages, debt, disposition, droit, and dower. We're getting there. Domus, domicile, dogma, docket, opposite, doctor, doctrine. Here we go. Doctrine means. So we're just reading a Google. Let us go back to Google. It says what? A formal set of beliefs, teachings, or established principles adopted and taught by a group, organization, or field of study. The legal dictionary says doctrine is a rule, principle, theory, or tenet of the law, as the doctrine of merger, the doctrine of relation, etc. So why doesn't it say a doctrine is a written piece of information? Because it don't have to be written. It literally can be a custom, something that people just follow all the time, something that people believe is what things are supposed to be, and then just keep on and do it. A doctrine has nothing to do with law. What is a tenet? It's or a tenet of the law. Let us look up what is a tenet. So let's go down to T. Tenancy. Let's go down some more. Or they might get too big. Tenancy. Tenant. Tender. Tenor. Tenor. Tenet. Tenet. Let's zoom in. What does tenet mean? Tenet. He holds, he held. In the Latin form of the writ of waste against a tenant, those words introduced the allegation of a tenure. So this is talking about a tenant. Talking about tenancy, the latter term was used, the writ being described as in tenuit, and then damages only were sought. Now this you have to read together with the actual definition of doctrine. So the doctrine is like something you employ to use temporarily, right? Like a tenant. A tenant in some kind of building or, some space, some property. It is not a permanent thing. So you just employ it for a period of time and then it goes back to being normal, right? So when we have a doctrine, it is not something in law. It is not written anywhere in law. It is simply a set of rules that people are following, and you might not even know what that is until you ask. Like the doctrine of immunity. Anyways, sovereign immunity is a centuries-old doctrine dictating that the monarch cannot be prosecuted or subject to civil legal action under the law. Does that sound familiar? Somebody cannot be prosecuted under civil law? Its origin lies in doctrine and convention rather than statute, and there is no law setting out the rules underpinning the concept. So what it means is that people just come up with it. You can't go read it anywhere. It is just accepted that the queen, and anybody who work for the queen, often has some level of immunity. And so it stems partly from the medieval concept that the monarch is the source of justice and can therefore do no wrong. When I see the screen, right? Let me see if I can zoom it in more, so I can read what I am reading. Let's move this over. Yeah. So I can see say me actually I read what me I say. Immunity. It say it stems partly from the medieval concept. You know what medieval mean? Old, long time ago. When they used to have dynasties and them something there. It stems from the medieval concept. And not even say medieval law. It's a medieval concept that the monarch is the source of justice and can therefore do no wrong. Right? It also relies on an argument that because the courts belong to the queen, she cannot be compelled to appear in them, since she would, in effect, be prosecuting herself. People, when I get this, if when I get this, drop a one in the chat, because I don't know if I don't really comprehend what I go on here. So. Is any of this making sense? We're not going to stop there, but we're going to pause here for a second. You see what it say? The monarch, right? In the comment section, what is the highest form of government in Jamaica? Cole said the crown is above the law. That is correct. Remember we talked about last time in a Bunny, lawful greetings, welcome. We talked about this last time. The creator does not become a part of its creation. The creator does not become or subject itself to its creation. It's just like you build one anything. You build one car, you build one house. The car can't control you, the house can't control you. You go and do as you please with your creation. That is the role and the position of how the monarch sets up itself. So we hear the highest form of government in Jamaica is the crown. The crown is above the law. The crown. So the crown is the law. All right, Arnell, send me a DM, and we can discuss. Yes, people, tap the screen so that TikTok knows we are still here. Right? Ricardo says, so they themselves, not person. That is correct. As it relates to the law, the crown is not a person. Now, let's take a look at something here. This is the Jamaica Information Service. And here they have, let's open this image in a new tab so we can just look at the image. This is what they have as the government of Jamaica overview. Arnell, you can't put them things in the comment section. And I don't call anyone. Alright? Like I send me a DM and we can talk, but we cannot share contact on TikTok. See? So this is what the Jamaica Information Service, or the official government information website, says is the system of government for Jamaica. It says Government of Jamaica, an overview. Right? Now, what do we see there at the top? People remember, you know, I know me assess so. We just look on factual information. So, me not try convince you of anything. Then put it right in front of your face, because enough people not like read, enough people not like go look up anything. Right? So, where exactly do we see any of our officials, or what we would term the officials? Them they under this big line here, so under all of this, where you have, it's where them have the legislature, right? Them have the legislature, them have the executive, and they have the judicial, right? But the crown and its agents are above that. King Kong, lawful greetings, welcome. Exactly, Bonnie. I mean, we talk about independence already still, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So again, this is official information. This is not someone putting together 1, 2, and 3 and I say a 4. Right? This is, again, you can see it for yourself. Right? You can see for yourself. You can go to the Jamaica Information Service website, jis.gov.jm. And you can go to either the search bar, or you can navigate around to the government section, and it has overview of the government. And you can go see it for yourself. You see? Let me show you now. You see? See the right there, so? jis.gov.jm. Right? And see? This is the navigation to that page. So you can go and look it up for yourself. You don't have to think that maybe me I play tricks by your eye. See? Now, what does the JIS say about Jamaica's system of government? Let us take a small look. Wonder if we can zoom it in a little bit. Yeah. It says, in Jamaica, the system of governance is a constitutional monarchy or limited monarchy, under which the king, represented by a governor general, is head of state. We talked about the colonial government before. And there are always people. Let me ask you that question. For those of you who have been here for a while, you know, so we always come with the receipts. Do you remember we had an attorney on the live, and they, instead of the attorney coming up, they sent up the law students? They sent up a law student who started talking and talking and talking, and we had to stop him in the middle of his explanation of what he thought was the law and calm him down a little bit. G-Force, lawful greetings, welcome. You see, they always send out those inexperienced, you know, to go test the waters. They don't want to just jump into the water. So they send a test subject to go see how they can handle it. And when he actually realized what was happening, he calmed himself down and took himself away. But one of the things he was alluding to was that the crown is ceremonial. The crown doesn't have any true power in Jamaica. The crown doesn't have any kind of authority over Jamaica or all of these things, whatever he's learning in law school, right? And when he's posed with certain questions, he quickly alluded back to, oh, you know, we didn't get that far yet in our studies. You know, I would have to look up that and get back to you. Up to now, I don't hear back from him, you know. I don't hear back from him. I hope he's still around and still learning. Because this is not to put people down. This is to build everyone up. So everyone has the knowledge. If everyone has the knowledge, then we can actually have an equal society. Right? We don't need to be trying to prove our muscle when it comes to the law. But the fact that to this day and age, people still don't know that the crown is still responsible for Jamaica, regardless of what they think is independence, regardless of who they think is in power. Publicly, the crown or the monarch is still the head of state of Jamaica. And people should have been questioning this for a long time. If your legal system, the highest court in your legal system, is in another country, that should have run off all kind of bells in your mind where you start go look up things. Romain says Parliament in Jamaica have ultimate power. I don't know what you're talking about, but you might need to be a little bit more clear. Or maybe you just joined. You didn't see the image that we are referencing. Right? Seems like you are late to the party. Are you saying that this image right here that we're looking at is fake? Are you saying the Jamaica Information Service is not providing accurate information? Sunro, lawful greetings, welcome. Romain say our parliament can change that image. Oh gosh. I chief say I've proven that Jamaicans choose to be blind and prefer to argue ignorantly. Oh gosh. Anyways, you know, people are free to believe what they want to believe, right? But you see, when it comes to the facts, when it comes to evidence, I am going to stick on the side of what can be proven and I'm going to stay away from opinion. See it? So, it is clear. JIS specifically says that the king is what? Head of state. Right? Clearly. So, whatever anybody wants to say, they have to go up on JIS page and change it. And not only that, they will have to remove the Privy Council. Remove the Privy Council as the highest court in the land, which is again in a foreign land. We don't know how you go over there to remove it, because as we spoke about on the last live, we are use people things. If we are use people things, we cannot dictate how people things supposed to get used. Right? Nessa, lawful greetings, welcome. All right, so let's not beat a dead horse. We're going to leave that alone, Zane. Exactly, Raquel. If the king wasn't head of state, we would not need a governor general. Do people even know what a governor general is? I tell you, sometimes I just laugh, because it just don't make any sense, some of these things that we encounter, but whatever. Whatever. All right, and again, it is best to read what the government has to say before we make a decision on, even just the introduction. Even though the image is rather clear, it is always best to read in context what this thing is about. And it goes further into talking about, the monarch is the sovereign of Jamaica, etc., and all them something there. So it is good to read, right? Exactly, titular as well, right? Same thing. So let us head back over here. So as we can see, this concept of the monarch and sovereign immunity goes far, far, far back in the past. It didn't start in the 19th century. It didn't start in even the 15th century. It goes back to the 1200s. Right? So here it says, and again, it says the reason, again, the queen cannot be prosecuted is because the queen is literally considered to be the creator of the system or the owner of the system. So you can't use the system against its owner. Since at least 1800, the monarch has also had a legally distinct private persona created to allow them to have independent wealth and property that could be inherited by their children. Yeah, man, Baba. Lawful, always. Let me read that again for those in the back. Since at least 1800, the monarch has also had a legally distinct private persona. Remember, we say the queen cannot be considered a person. The crown, none of the crown's family can be considered a person. But what they have done and what they are telling you is they have created a private persona. What does this mean? What does this mean? Signatories, you already know this already. This is where trust law comes into play, right? You create a legally distinct entity that is recognized in every other system. We're going to keep things in a Jamaica context, We can't go too far on TikTok, remember? Exactly, which is why they refer to the land as crown land and not government land. Now, those are two distinct things, by the way. There is crown land and there is government land, right? So, we're not going to really go into all of them deep details there, but the two are distinct and they do exist, right? So, a private persona by the monarch is simply a legal fiction. And we talked about this before, right? We talked about this before. Your legal persona or your private persona is sometimes created by you rather than created by something or someone else. And you can use that almost in a similar fashion as you can use an LLC or some other legal fiction ens legis, right? So the crown, the monarch, also has a legally distinct private persona created, you see? That is what we're talking about. Created to allow them to have independent wealth and property that could be inherited by their children. Remember, I said this to you about 2 to 3 lives ago, that the things that we are using today, these are ancient things. These are old concepts. They were built to withstand what is to come in the test of time. Exactly, Kwako. Purpose built. These things, like a private persona and so forth, they already realized that if they are going to claim something like sovereign immunity or use a system such as a monarchy, they cannot interface inside of the monarchy as a ruler. So they had to create a persona to operate inside of that confine of a system that is separate from them. So it's just like you have, let's say you have a driver's license. That is a private persona, even though it is almost, I'm not going to use a certain word. But your driver's license, for example, is a private persona. It is used for a specific purpose. Your passport is the same, a private persona, right? So all of these are different statuses within society. It is used as a different purpose-built vehicle or purpose-built property to do certain things. Zine? Yeah, man, send me a DM. Or once we are complete with the topic, if you have a question related to the live, then we can have a discussion. But we don't want to have too much of a distraction right now. Zin? But if you want to save your question for the later part, then sure, we can have a discussion. However, the lines between the two are somewhat blurred, and sovereign immunity has typically been interpreted to apply to both the public and private identities of the monarch. So, as it relates to immunity, even the private persona is considered immune. Because when we talk about immunity, it is where it is reaching to. What is its destination? It is not necessarily the situation itself. Right? Like them say, is who you know, is not what you know. What is crown application? Sometimes referred to as crown immunity. Crown application is the notion that British law does not apply to the crown unless expressly written to do so. Sabek, lawful greetings, welcome. You hear it say? Sometimes referred to as crown immunity. Crown application is the notion that British law does not apply to the crown unless expressly written to do so. Where did we see this language before? Anybody remember where we see this language? Of the law not applying to a certain group? Who remember? Drop it in the chat. Exactly. Exactly. The Order in Council 1962. Let us take a quick look. Let us bring it up. Let us bring it up so we can have a quick look. Section 48.3, right? 48. See where you are? Section 48.3. What does it say? No civil or criminal proceedings may be instituted against any member of either house for words spoken before or written in a report, blah, 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 blah. What does this mean? They are immune from prosecution. As long as them not commit an actual crime, they will not face any penalties. And again, even if it is criminal, as long as it is within Parliament, they will not face any penalties. So when we go back and we look at what is being said here about how it applies to the British Crown, it is directly in our Constitution, Order in Council 1962. So it is not a concept. We can actually see it in law. So unless it is specifically written that something is a felony or a misdemeanor or a violation of law, it does not apply to the Crown. So what is the Crown? What is the Crown? The Crown encompasses the government and the monarchy as well as various state and royal estates. So who is immune? The government. And what is in government? What constitutes government? All of the officials and the actors and the different people in power, they are considered to be a group of people called the government. It is not the building you're looking at. This has nothing to do with real estate. This has to do with the idea, the concept, and the written documents talking about who or what government is. So the Crown is all agents of the Crown as well as the royal estates. So you see how this comes full circle? So when we have Crown agents, when we have members of the government that do things and we say, so how come them now get prosecuted? How come this now happen? How come that now happen? The concept of immunity applies. All official duties are considered to be immune from prosecution. The government interprets it to also include the monarch's private identity. Here you know. So the right to keep and bear arms and declare independent the right way this time. Exactly. This is exactly, you see, people, I cannot teach everything all at once. That's why we have to go bite size, live after live, discussion after discussion, so that we can see these things in reality. We can talk about concepts and what should work. So when time I tell you, say, when the time comes for us to take action, you don't have to worry about whether or not it will work. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about none of how, the how. No worry about that. Okay? The most important thing is to realize you are in a boiling pot first. If we don't know so we're in a problem, then obviously we don't have any urgency, we don't have any drive, we don't have anything at all, any reason to move or to do anything. That is why education comes first. See? This is why we drafted a constitution. Okay? We can't teach this first and then I try to create a constitution. We just have to create the solution first. And then we start overstand what we are doing, why the constitution is important, and why it has to be in place. You see, I don't know if anyone will follow international news. You see, whenever you have a country that decides that the government not doing what it's supposed to do, right? When you see riots going on around the world and you see governments overthrow and all of them something that happen, you have to see the follow-up. You have to see what happened after them decide say this now work, the people them too oppressed, you can't have a basic living, you can't have sanitary condition, you can't have the basic necessities of life, right? That is typically why we have, and again, corruption, right? Them thief, them lie, them tell you this, them do that. What happens after the revolution? You see, this saying goes, if you don't learn your lesson, it will come round back times 2. Every time you get the lesson and you learn it properly, it will compound and it will come back round. So if you no learn from the previous generation what them go through, if you no learn what their mistakes were, it is guaranteed you're going to make the same mistake where you could have avoided. The one mistake most new governments make is that them not understand the system enough to replace it. Even when they draft a new constitution, they don't understand it enough to properly change it. That is a major flaw. Because just putting new people in power, that does not fix a system. Just putting new people in positions does not fix a system. You have to look at the problems that you have and build a system around solutions. That is what we have done. Okay? If we did not do that, what we would have simply done is to say, we don't want this government, we don't want this, we don't want that. So now we just want different people in there for the people. We're going to face the same problem because once somebody is in power and they realize, well, watch out, nobody can prosecute me. Watch out, I can make little money or so, I can make some money there so, I can pay a money or so, fin shut up in mouth, I can do this, I can do. Once them see them little something where them can do, what do you think is going to happen? We all know money change people. Exactly, Kwako. I was gonna get around to that later. You see, if it is not a military overtake, you have problems legally internationally. Because it is said that a constitution is the seed of a country. It is the tree that has grown over time. So if you don't properly and lawfully transition from that constitution and you just do things and use violence and crime and you cause loss of life and all them something there, if it is not lawful, then the current system that was in place, it is going to remain in place, even if you want it to change, even if the new system is better and it is working. What is going to happen is the powers that be are not going to consider it legitimate, and they are going to restore that system back to the way it was before. The only two exceptions are it has to be lawful or it has to have been taken over by the military. Those are the only two exceptions. Those are the only two exceptions. Okay? Now, when and where can we see the new constitution? The new constitution is on voiceofjamaica.com. For those who are new, let us take a look. Let us go to the home page to zoom out. Let's go to the home. Where is the menu? Oh. Go to the home page. This is voiceofjamaica.com. Right? You see it? Voiceofjamaica.com. No dashes, no slash, no nothing. That's voiceofjamaica.com. When you scroll down a little bit, the first post is gonna say new constitution. Right? And from here, you can download or you can view the new constitution right here. You can click on it and it comes up as a PDF file. So everybody can go and download a copy and take a look for yourself. What is this constitution? And why is it different from everything else? What makes it different and what makes it something that would be viable, that would work as a new system of governance, a new system of law? The first thing is that we have a Declaration of Independence on page 2. From page 2, I think, to page 6 is the Declaration of Independence, right? And in there, it will explain exactly why we drafted this constitution, right? Next, you have the table of contents. Now, where we want to look at why this constitution would work would be Article 2. Article 1 talks about the authority and structure of government, right? And if we click on the link or click on the table of content, it brings us right to the section that we're talking about, right? Now, under Article 2, it talks about the nature of law and something called the fixed law principle. Zoom it in a little bit. The fixed law principle is a concept that the Constitution would be the source of all law. What does this mean? We would eliminate anything related to a parliament or a senate or a house or any kind of representative structure that creates arbitrary law without the advice and consent of the people. So we would no longer have a colonial system called a parliament or a senate or a house, or a general assembly for that matter. Here is what section 2 explains. The laws shall not be created, amended, or expanded except where strictly necessary. 2. The purpose of law is to prevent harm, protect life, liberty, interest, and property, and maintain order. Limit action where necessary and demanded by the people. 3. Conduct causing intentional harm, injury, loss, or death shall constitute a violation of law, regardless of classification. Right? So, the law itself would have to be by necessity, where the people would require the change in law, and they would make the suggestion. And from there, it would be put together and it would be voted on before it goes into law. All of these steps are actually in the Constitution itself, right? And it talks about the authority of the people in many different matters. But another question I know is going to come up is, why is the Constitution 2,159 pages? And I don't blame you to ask that question. To answer that question, it is best to go back to the table of contents. At the end of the table of contents, here we have the operational manuals for every single agency of government. Remember, we said the Constitution must be a fixed law system, meaning nobody is going to change the laws unless the people suggest it and vote on it that this is a law they would like to implement. And that is where we would have constitutional amendments, right? So, for example, we have the Civil Procedure Manual. This is where everything related to civil matters in court, you would know exactly what procedure you would need to take, what forms, what this, what that, everything related to a civil matter in this manual. The Criminal Procedure Manual, same thing. Family Procedure Manual for family matters. Public Peace Service Operations. So all of these are manuals for all levels of government. Because we cannot trust anyone else to create laws. Almost all of the laws that are in place, or all of the policies that are in place, people are always harmed as a result. We're not saying every single thing is a problem, but we have too many problems to be ignored, right? Ramsey say, don't we already have a constitution? I see we have another late one to class. Maybe you're just joining, so you have no idea what we're talking about. But anyways, that is what takes up the bulk of this constitution, right? The policy manuals that will dictate how agencies are run, how agents do their job, and how exactly public officials are held to the highest standard possible, because it is simply a job, right? So apart from that, the Constitution itself goes into the details of what exactly each section of law encompasses, right? And we talk about, for example, crimes and penalties standard, enumeration of crimes, criminal penalties, and so forth, right? But one of the other interesting sections here is self-defense, arms, and community protection, right? And this section talks about the fact that every single household, as long as you are of sound mind, right? As long as you pass the basics of having a sound mind and can keep your sanity, and of course, just basic restrictions, right? You should be able to arm yourself and protect your family and your property. An unarmed nation is a sitting duck. Not only can they be violated by anyone, if the law makes it a crime to protect yourself and your family, even though the Constitution guarantees it, then that in itself is a crime. Right? So, the Constitution would empower everyone to protect themselves, to arm themselves, to prepare for any kind of violation of their right to privacy, their right to property, etc., etc., etc. Right? So, many provisions in here that not only protect the citizens, but also protect the nation. Right? When we talk about something like arms ownership, weapons ownership for defensive purposes, we have to have a registry, right? You know, the question came up while we were drafting this section, right? To say, what about, for example, those people who already have a firearm and it is not registered and so forth, right? What would we do with such conditions, right? Now, as long as something is not tied to some criminal activity, right? It is not illegal. So therefore, you just simply need to register your weapon, right? And that's it. You register the weapon, it is accounted for, so it is not something that's just in the wild, right? And from there, it is just a matter of keeping it safe, keep it in a safe location, always account for it, because if it is unaccounted for, especially in your household, then, you know, if something happens and it is tied back to that weapon, then you would be at fault. It is that simple, right? Arnell say we cannot fully arm ourselves. We already went through this discussion already. You are very late. But go ahead. Why don't you think people can arm themselves? And what exactly do you think would be the result? Zero says no registration. Hitler forced people to register before confiscation. Zero, you need to first comprehend what is in the Constitution before you condemn a specific section that you most likely have no idea the safeguards surrounding the decisions that were made to do certain things. Okay? So anyways, we do not want an unarmed nation. Why? If Jamaica was invaded right now, every single person in Jamaica who don't have some kind of weapon or training, they are lamb to the slaughter. You don't have no kind of defensive training. You don't have no one to stand up for us if the police or the army get taken over by any chance or overpowered. Everybody else, lamb to the slaughter. You don't know what to do. You'll be running and hiding. Is that what we want as a nation? Does that make sense? The modern type of artillery we need, interceptor drones, etc. Anyways, like I said, there are several different protective provisions in here. This is not a free-for-all. The point of registration is to ensure that everyone has a weapon that is accounted for. We're not going to condone anything that is unlawful morally. For example, smuggling of weapons, smuggling of unlawful things are dangerous, actual dangerous substances and so forth. We're not going to condone any of that, right? But at the same time, we have to be able to defend ourselves if danger comes. It's just like right now, if somebody run in upon somebody and that attacker or thief has a weapon, those who are in their house, if you don't by some magic have your licensed firearm, you are a lamb in your own home. you would not be able to properly defend yourself. Especially in your sleep and somebody running. It's a problem. It's a real problem. Why shouldn't people be able to protect themselves and their property? It don't make no sense. It is actually enshrined in the Charter of Rights. But anyways, on top of this, right, here, every person has the right to defend themselves, other persons, or property under lawful possession. Defensive force shall be necessary proportionate to the threat faced, and use of force beyond necessity shall be unlawful. Now, if somebody run in your yard and run in your house, or kick off your door and run in and do all kind of whatever, the proportionate force is to get rid of it, right? Because that is an unlawful act, right? But anyways, not only that, when we talk about owning, for example, a firearm, you have mandatory training that you have to go through. You have safe storage that you have to go through. There is still prohibited conduct. There is still restrictions based on proven danger. So it is not a free-for-all. Anybody just get up and just go get something. So come on now. Come on now. Yeah, you have to have better sense than that. Right? So anyways, that is just one small section. There is also education. When we talk about creating a nation that has defensive force, right? And civil militia. There's a responsibility to the owner, correct. If we registered and the JDF falls, the enemy gain access to the registry. So what does that do? If that comes and somebody get access to the registry, literally every household will probably have one. What's the difference? I don't get it. So what if somebody get a list of everyone who has a gun? How are you going to find them? What is that going to do? How is that going to cause any kind of problem? That is just for simple accountability. Okay? And again, that is a small portion of a larger system. We also have a national record system, a permanent record system, right? The court systems would change every single thing in society that is outdated, that is slow, that is causing us a problem. All of those are covered in this Constitution. And we're going to go through at another time, but not tonight, right? But the Constitution is there for those who want to go look and glean and take a listen. You can. Right? All right. So, we talk about immunity, right? We talk about the origins, diplomatic immunity, right? And how it started with letters patent. So it's just like, when I see those old movies, or even the Kung Fu movie them, where you see, like an agent of the government being carried through the forest and them start fighting all them something and them say, hey, I have the king seal or I have this seal. That is something like a letters patent showing authority to travel through a certain area, right? So, anyways, that is where this diplomatic immunity thing came from. Now, when it comes to current day conduct, it has expanded into something very strange, where if a diplomat from another country, for example, travels to Jamaica, and for whatever reason is involved in a crime, did you know that individual is still considered immune to prosecution? Because they are under the protection of the crown or the government of the other country. Anyways, that is what immunity does. It grants someone almost invincibility as it concerns the laws of a country. So the other section here where it talks about Crown application, it says Crown application is unique to Westminster law and has been criticized for its vagueness and tendency to discourage Parliament from properly considering how the government should be affected by new laws. In 2017, the Supreme Court upheld the rule, observing that it was so ubiquitous within British law that not to do so would create problems. Supreme Court don't have no authority to change that. Anyways, when asked about the Queen's legal immunity as a private citizen, her communications secretary, Donald McCabe, accepted that the government and the palace hold discussions about how and to what extent a bill should apply to Elizabeth Windsor as a private citizen during the drafting of legislation. Imagine that. You bargain with your creator about accountability. Really? The royal household can be consulted on the technical accuracy of the approach of departments to the issue of Crown application. McCabe says this is to ensure accuracy and to highlight any inconsistencies and not to dictate policy. Anyways. All right. So we're gonna stop there for now, right? We have Romain still hanging around. Click in the box and I will bring you up because you've been patient. You've been patient. Click in the box and come up if you still want to ask your question. Or if you still had the 5 to 10 minutes that you wanted to discuss something. You gone? No question, guys. Right? Had a phone issue. What platform is this new constitution on? The constitution is on voiceofjamaica.com. That is the website. Voiceofjamaica.com. If you click on my profile, the website is right there. The website is there. You scroll down and it says new constitution. That's where the constitution is. See? Listen, we're all here to learn, you know. So if you feel that there is something that you would like to introduce or you would like to discuss, we're open. This is not a dictatorial channel, right? All right, we have, I don't know if Talwa is still there. You had sent a request. Talwa.
Yes.
Good
evening.
Evening.
Greetings, my brother. I I'm really feel a good vibe about what you and Marvin are doing so far, and whoever else is involved in this, standing up for change and the rights of our Jamaican people. So I applaud you guys for doing this. And, as much information as we can get as to the plans that you have out there, we really appreciate it. Do you have a sort of a master plan for moving forward?
Have you? It doesn't sound like you have been here much before. Oops.
No, I'm fairly new to this.
Okay. Well, we don't disclose plans over here. So what we're doing, what our current stage is at right now is to bring awareness around specific topics, specific information, and bring awareness around the Constitution itself, the new Constitution.
who got together and wrote the Constitution? Yourself and other
Myself
collaborators?
and much of the people who are on the live, people who are not on the live, people who have made suggestions through the website, people who have made other suggestions through other platforms as well. And let us take a look at what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So on voiceofjamaica.com, if you scroll down to New Constitution right here,
Right, I'm on the website here. Yes, I see it.
you click on New Constitution.
Yeah.
All right, so if you scroll down, keep scrolling,
Mm-hmm.
you will see much of the suggestions that have been made that is posted on the site.
Okay.
So you'll see the suggestions, you'll see notes, you'll see, various different topics that we have gone through over this last 6 months.
Oh,
Well,
excellent.
over 6 months to complete it.
Excellent job so far from what I'm seeing. I mean, I'd like to go through it.
Yeah, man. And
But
as a matter of fact, if you keep scrolling, you will see the YouTube replays of each of those constitutional draft sessions. So you can see exactly and hear exactly what we were discussing over those periods of time.
aha. Okay, yes, I'm down there. Okay, I see. So is it that there is a independent party that you're a part of that's going to
No,
run? No.
no,
This is just being put forward to us to sort of demand change.
no. This has nothing to do with the current government. We are not going to confront or demand or petition or march for change and all. Not that is absolutely not what we're doing. It has nothing to do with the current government that's in place.
So what is the mandate? What is the goal of doing this constitution, this new constitution? What is outlined by yourself and others who have been involved?
Well, that question comes from, I guess, a lack of comprehension of what we have already gone through. You see, before you ask some of these questions, respectfully, you would have to at least take a look at the Constitution first. You don't have to read the whole thing, just look at, I would say, the first 10 pages, and then you can ask certain questions.
Fair enough. I understand that. I really think that this is something that we need, though. Absolutely need this change.
Mm-hmm.
How it's gone about, how it is going to be done, that's another matter. I mean,
right.
But again, I'll give someone else some space to talk and let me go through this. But so far, I think, this looks like something that's very positive for us Jamaicans. And just on the note of this upcoming strike that the taxi operators are calling for, as far as I know, they're the ones calling for it. I applaud that, and I think that more needs to be done in terms of how we go about, basically demanding change, because we need some serious changes in this country to really see proper progress, and I've been following some of Marvin's work, so I've just caught on to your aspect of it and what you've been doing. So I'll free up the mic for someone else, but I just wanted to say that this is really, I've heard about for example, the petition that Marvin put out, but when I went there, it was already closed.
Okay.
So you are in collaboration together, am I right? Is that he's a part of it? No?
Not necessarily as yet. When we talk about collaboration, it will be as far as awareness is concerned, and combining our exposure so that other people can, get a chance, just like you, who have no idea what we're doing over here. People can gain awareness and knowledge of what exactly they have, what we have crafted so far, and what exactly we're going to be doing coming forward. But when you say joining forces with other people and other groups, not necessarily the case.
Okay. Well, I look forward to reading this.
Yeah, man.
And I guess I'll learn more from that. Everyone have a good night and many blessings.
Yeah, man. Lawful. Thanks for coming up.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So, for those who may be new to the platform, you will probably notice that it is very different from any other channel that you will encounter on TikTok. We're not over here to necessarily prove anything. We are not here to bring excitement or entertainment per se. You might have a laugh here and there, but what we're over here doing is setting the groundwork for the foundation of what people don't see yet, but it is the future of what is to come. Okay? We cannot ask and beg and plead. We cannot use suffrage and think that we actually have any power. The first thing we must realize is where we are, what we are in, and what we are experiencing. And this is why I teach these things on the live, so we all can be on the same page. So for those who came in late, as we get on these lives, we show the factual evidence of what we're talking about. When we talk about what is Jamaica, what is immunity, what is independence, what is the Constitution, just like we talked about last time, there is no such thing as protect and serve for the police. The police are not there for the people. They are there for the crown. They are there to protect the government's interest. They are not there to so-called serve and protect no communities and people. So regardless of what they might say publicly, that is absolute rubbish when it comes to the fact that they take an oath to the Queen or the Crown. All of them. Either to the Corporation of Jamaica or to the Crown. And when you take an oath, it is a binding legal document. It means that is where your power comes from. So you saying that I am going to do all of these things that you require of me, and that is what I will do as long as I wear your uniform and your badge and your paraphernalia and all them something there. That is their mandate. If you go and find any of their oaths, which we showed on screen many times, if you go and find these documents and see these different things, they are not there for the people. The people have no place in government, in law, in any of this. So the fact that we have to come to this realization, it clearly shows that over time, over the past 500 years, while this has been in play, the people really never know Wagwan. They really never really know Wagwan as far as the law is concerned. And in today's day and age, we have become so afraid of the law that we will just, as them say, comply. We're not going to fight it because what? We have seen the result of those who sometimes try to fight. So many of us get discouraged, right? But either way, the only way for us to get out of a system is to simply stop using it. That is it. If we keep on using people things, then we can't ball about consequences. We can't dictate the rules. That is the biggest problem we have. We are using a system that does not benefit us, or we don't know how to use it to our benefit. You know, someone asked the question of, is it, hi Chief, I saw him bring it up. Someone said, is it possible to remain in the matrix or remain in the system and effectively navigate? And the answer is yes. You absolutely can. You can learn the tricks of the trade. You can learn how to navigate properly. You can learn how to use your name, how to elevate yourself. The problem that you will face is that it is a selfish decision. While we know that not everyone is intellectually capable at this moment, some people are just, their mind just not have no kind of capacity for anything intellectual. Right? So, them just not go get it. That does not mean they should suffer because someone else decide that they are just going to do things for themselves rather than try to get everybody out of the gutter. Right? So, the fact is, there are people who know exactly how the system works. But if we are those who know exactly how it works, decide to do nothing, then everybody else suffer. Is that a world that we want to live in? Where only some people can have some kind of peace and happiness while others are plundered into the ground? I don't think so. And that is why I become a part of this. This is why I say, let us learn together. Let us build together. Let us create something that ourselves, our children, our grandchildren can look back and say, you know what? My father, my grandfather, my family was a part of this. I am proud to say my family is a part of this country's history. This new Jamaica. In my lifetime, this happened. Imagine Obama's family when Obama became the first black president in a modern time. Not necessarily the first black president, but in a modern times. Imagine his children and grandchildren, his family. Imagine the entire America can talk about that. What can we talk about when we think about the system that has been in Jamaica? Have we had any hand in it? Can we be proud of it? Can we say, yes, this is what a system should be? The only thing you hear about a party this and party that. So, the point is, everyone should be able to participate in their government, not just those who are so-called intellectually capable. Hi, Chief.
Yeah, man, Grand Rising.
Greetings.
Man. First, me catch you live from early, you know? From me, I watch it. So I'm really full joy the motion. So, couple things. One of the things we want the new people that will come on and forget is that it's when you come on a show like this, it is best to listen first. Because as I said earlier, I have proven time and again that most Jamaican, they choose to be blind and argue out of ignorance. They function off of emotion, you know? You're presenting facts. You dep on the website, the lawful website, then we give all of the details and the information. Yet you still have people who come try and make a fool of themselves. No. When you have a complete system such as this, which you and your team have created, and I will continue to applaud you and the team because this is beyond brilliant. You get me? If I saw it in the earlier part, me would have probably find a way if you come on board and contribute. Yeah?
Yeah.
Because this is something that is needed. And it is beautiful to see that we own brother have our interests at heart. Because remember, as the LB say, the police, the parliamentarians, who they have pledged allegiance to, has nothing to do with we the people. It has to do with the corporation and the profits and the generation of profits for the corporation. So that is why you see them are roll out this new road traffic act. These sections were gonna put tremendous pressure on the people. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care. You know what I mean? They really don't care. They have no empathy towards what the people is facing. They just function under the authority that have been given to them, and that is to make more profits for the corporation. So when you come over here, make us sit and learn and pay attention. And another thing that I want to suggest to all who is here, always remember, throughout the live, tap up the screen, send one gift. Because we need to keep the live active. Because you don't know already, people will come over here to try to report the live and get the live taken down. Because I've noticed from I've gotten on TikTok, which is about 2 years now, every time a man come on here presenting something that's going to be beneficial for the people, he is targeted, in page banned, his page is taken down, and in some cases in the US, he is unalived. Some people, we have something good, we have something very powerful over here. Give it 120% support. Give it 120% support. So, me not have nothing much to say about tonight's topic, because me kind of in the area as well, so we kind of know a lot of it already.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So big up to yourself and the team, and giving them more strength and more life. Continue pushing the work. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Big up yourself, and thanks for sharing the thoughts and coming up. Um, well, one of the things, even though I can't stop people from sending the gifts and stuff, but I always say, top up the live, right? And the reason I say top up the live is because we want TikTok to not only broadcast the live so that other people become aware that we are over here having a discussion, but also because when the agents start reporting the live to say, sometimes they have outrageous things they're reporting, like nudity, all kind of rubbish, which obviously, is we don't talk about any of these things, we don't present any of these things on the live and so forth, but they will report it under false pretenses. So when TikTok does the review, then they can see that people are interacting with the live, people are enjoying themselves, or they are enjoying what they are hearing and seeing and so forth. And it has nothing to do with any kind of prohibited content. So that is why I say, top up the lives. That is the least you can do. The gifts and thing, you don't have to send a gift, but if you so choose, that also helps promote the live so that it spreads awareness to those who are online to at least come over and learn something, rather than sit down there and laugh and I get entertained and just sit down there like a zombie. Because you can do that all day, you can do that all night, but when it comes to learning something, the attention span has gone down for much of humanity because of this social media craze, right? And when we have important things to discuss, it actually creates an avenue for people who are more intellectually inclined. Meaning, the masses, oftentimes, they don't have anything to trigger them to say, stop. This is something that needs priority thinking. It is only really those who have some kind of inkling for not only just truth, right? But some people who actually have an inkling for purpose. Those are the people who stop, they listen, they try to see what exactly is going on here. How many ever hear about this before? And they start digging and searching and asking questions. And really and truly, those are the people who will be able to incite the kind of change that we are going to be experiencing. And those are the people who we actually want over here. You know, there are some people who are agent provocateurs. They come, they don't hear nothing at all. As soon as they hear anything that sounds remotely political, they go off and they go off and they go off. Sometimes we allow people to come up early, but sometimes it is necessary to complete the thought and get through the lesson for the evening and the facts and the realities before we make people come up. Because as we know, some people come up and it is off-topic discussions. It is not what we're currently discussing. So, again, a lot of these things that we're discussing, they are some of the benefits that are already in the Constitution. It is necessary for us to weed out all of these old systems, from the unspoken to the unwritten to the assumed, the presumed, all of those things. We have to know exactly what they are first and then get rid of them in an upcoming system, and make sure not only get rid of them, you know, the awareness is necessary to know what to avoid, how to protect ourselves. Because if we don't do that, then we're going to have the same set of intellectuals come back around in the future and try to bamboozle us again. So that is why we have to have knowledge first before we run out there talking about action no, action no, action no. That is not what this is all about. The war that we are currently facing is not won, and the war is not won by action. Much of the war that is happening nowadays is not visible to the everyday person. Most people don't see the problems that we have. They only see what they think is a problem. They see the effects of a problem. They see the residuals of a problem. They don't see that it's coming from a root stream. It's just like you have dirty water. Them not gonna look for the source of it. They might look for the water and say it's dirty. Right? So that is the point of this. That is the point of this movement. To educate first, so that when we decide to take action, it is not just a so-called leader. It is not just one person who knows everything and then something happened to that person, or that person is unavailable and then the whole group becomes a zombie. No. Everybody is supposed to have a level of intellect that they can use to their benefit and use for the protection of others. That is the point of us learning. That is the point of us coming together. That is the point of us using our collective brain power and drafting something like this. Because I couldn't have drafted it on my own. I couldn't come up with all of these different perspectives and ideas and problems, you know, and issues and things that we would need to infuse solutions for by myself. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I probably wouldn't have the drive to do any of that, right? But when we come together and we start putting our ideas together, putting our collective power together, that is what we can do, right? As them say, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to do something big, you have to bring others with you. So that me I do. I make sure I put my foot forward, and those who depend on the team, you join the team. If you don't like what you see or what you hear, you just move on. It's that simple. It's just like church. If you don't want to go to church, you walk past it or you drive past, right? If you want to go, you stop, you walk in, and you go participate, right? Or you even just go sit down. So we are not here to convince are to wow everybody. That is not what this is about. This is for those who find it useful. Okay? Because it's just like you have a household. There are a few people in there who manage things and make sure everything running. Everybody don't need to run things. There are always just a few who take on the responsibility to make sure that others are protected and safe and they are not being exploited. So we don't need everybody right now. Everybody not needed just yet. We just need to have awareness. We need to have enough of us so that when the time comes for us to move on to another stage, we have enough who can take action. Now, that being said, every single day we're going to be releasing a new reason why we need the new constitution. The reason why we are going to use the new constitution as our new system of law. Right? And as we go along, the only thing I ask is that those of you who come across the page, you will share the videos, you will repost the videos so others can be aware of what we're doing over here. Because it's a benefit for all. We're not over here looking money. We're not begging. We're not asking for lions. We're not asking for universes. That is not what this is about. See? That is not what this is about. I like this approach. It is a breath of fresh air. Yeah, man. Thank you. And welcome. So, when we, as you can say, the few, right? The few out of the majority take things seriously and put certain things in place, then others will start coming on board, others will start seeing the importance, and others will start seeing why exactly it is we were over here in the evenings talking, discussing, crafting, editing, putting together what is to be something that is truly unique. Why do we say this is truly unique? Because if you read what we have, this is nowhere else in the world. Nowhere else do we have a system like what we have designed. You see, a system without a parliament is rather interesting. Can you imagine if we, the people, are the only ones who can create law? If that is the case, then that would mean that over time, everybody would know the law. Everybody would know what everybody is supposed to do. There would be no changing of policy, no changing of rules and regulation, no announcement of a new system, none of that. If the people don't deem it to be so, then it will not be. Some people might not get that right now, but that is a system that would allow for true equality of the law and true peace. True peace. And we talked about a few things before. Something like this. If we, let us even use 500,000, let's say that is the true number of people, the true number of adults in Jamaica, right? If 500,000 people put together, so that's what, 500,000. If 500,000 people come together and say, here we are going, we are going to throw $1,000 a month as a public good, 1,000 Jamaican dollars every month we're going to throw. So for the whole year, each person would throw or put in the kitty 12,000 Jamaican dollars. You know how much money that? Every month we would have $50 million. Let us bring up a calculator. Alright, so 500,000 times 1,000. I'm sorry, I was wrong. 500 million. If 500,000 people put $1,000 together, we would have 500 million Jamaican dollars per month. You see the calculation? What could we do with $500 million a month? Could we provide housing for at least, I don't know, 10 people per month? 20 people per month? Imagine what we can do with something like this. Can we fix the road? Can we build modern hospitals? Can we put solar on every home? What could we do? Every single month we have 500 million. Let us multiply that by 12. You see how much that? $6 billion a year if we only put $1,000 a month together. So you see, a lot of the difficulties that we face, it is not that we don't have the money. That is absolutely not the case. It is that we don't have any priority. We are not considered when it comes to priority. The priority has always been how much money can be made. It is not what can be done with it. Now, while you think about that, you know, they said, they can call me whatever they want. Everybody is free to talk and come up with their own ideas. They said there is over 1 million traffic tickets that are out there unpaid. You remember that? Now, how much do we think are the bulk of these traffic tickets? You see, when them say them need to recoup and they need to get these things straightened out, and then when people run go the stadium go pay. Some of them license immediately get taken away. Some of them, their license are suspended immediately because of the demerit points. All sorts of different things. So not only do you pay, but you are also subjected to severe penalties. Now imagine those tickets, I would say minimum, those tickets are minimum $2,000. Maximum $50,000. I would say, because some of these offenses carry a hefty sum. So imagine 1 million ticket between 2,000 and 50,000 Jamaican dollars. So the median there, let us be generous and say median around 15 or 18, let's say 18,000 as a median. 18,000 times, let's use the half, 500,000. 18,000 times 500,000 tickets. Where are all of these monies going? I tell you before, Jamaica is not poor. Jamaicans are not poor. But we have no rights as it currently stands. Imagine all the taxes, all the customs fees, all of the toll, all of the things that are surrounding the fiscal policy and the accounting of the nation. Nobody on the outside knows what is going on in there. Why? Why? Because lawfully, the Prime Minister took an oath not to disclose any of it. So all you will ever see are reports, you will see summaries, you will see all kinds of things except the actual data. So you will see everything deriving from data, but you don't even know how can you trust it. Them say, oh, we're going to do audits, oh, we're going to do that. You have never ever seen the source of that information. You just believe it to be true. So under the new constitution, that would be ridiculous. It would not exist. The finances of the nation would actually be public. It would be transparent. It would no longer be hidden behind some bureaucratical colonial system. About 80% go back to the crown and 20% to the consolidated fund. Possibly, but we don't know. Now, here's an interesting thought, like we discussed last time. Well, we can't really say any of those words on the lives. Like we discussed last time, remember, you know, at them say we are a part of government, so we actually have the authority to demand insight into everything. Right? At them say we are a municipal corporation, so we actually have the authority to demand the actual data of where all of these things come from. All right? But that being said, we cannot have immunity. Immunity has to go. All of these doctrines, especially the other one, judicial discretion, that is another doctrine where the judge can decide a case regardless of the facts and regardless of the evidence. The judge, again, you would have to not invoke certain things, but that is besides the point. If you don't know what you're doing, and as a matter of fact, if you have an attorney, the judge can use their discretion in determining facts and evidence and whether or not they are going to use it or not. That is, again, based on the majority, ridiculous. That's what they did with the New Farmer case. Right. It is ridiculous. If someone has facts and evidence, how are you going to underweigh or disregard that doctrine? The doctrine of merger, I guess it depends on the subject matter. It is not necessarily a fixed doctrine, but we can take a look. Like I said, it's not a fixed doctrine, the doctrine of merger. Instead, the doctrine of merger is a legal principle that appears in several different areas of law. Right? So if you're talking about, for example, property, it is as unstable as immunity. Immunity is actually more fixed than the merger doctrine, right? So it says generally means that two separate legal duties, rights, or offenses come together. The smaller or earlier one is absorbed and wiped out by the bigger and final one. Because this term has multiple meanings, depending on the legal context, you can review its application across different fields. Now, this is not it is somewhat of a complex doctrine because it is not apples to apples comparing the same thing. Sometimes it goes across legal systems, right? So it depends on the context. Okay. Well, in terms of a trust, it can be used to talk about cross-jurisdictional things, right? So yeah, it all depends on what aspect of law we're discussing in terms of that. So, anyways, do we have any other questions? We don't see any other hands up. Okay. So, that is it for judicial immunity tonight. We will continue again on Sunday. And like I said, day by day, we're going to be dropping one new principle on why we created the Constitution and why it is beneficial for people to become aware of its existence before we start phase 3. We are currently at stage 2. Stage 1 was the drafting process where we took suggestions, we took insights, we had discussions, and again you can see that on voiceofjamaica.com. You click on the new constitution and you can scroll down and you can see much of that discussion in the messages that were sent and also the discussions that were had, which the replays are available on YouTube. We are at phase 2 now, which is awareness. We are bringing awareness around the Constitution and why it is beneficial for us to implement. And next we will have stage 3, which is the implementation stage. That is when we actually take action. I know many people are wondering, how can we take action on something like this and not cause any kind of problems? Again, we don't need to worry about the how. It is not going to be violent and it is going to be lawful. That is the most important thing. All right? Can we sign up as individuals to be a part of this movement? Yes, you can. Let us take a look before we conclude again. So if you go to voiceofjamaica.com to show. If you go to voiceofjamaica.com, you see, that's the website. In the menu, you have an option called signatories. If you click on signatories, you can check out the information and you can sign up with the form under the written material here. Again, as we always advocate on this channel, you need to learn to read. This section is not a long read, okay? So we suggest that you read this little section before you sign up so you know exactly what you're doing. Not that it is anything negative, but it is always good to know what it is that you're signing up for, right? And lastly, on voiceofjamaica.com, if you in the menu, if you click on My Voice, we have instructions here for those who would like to break generational curses, generational covenants, blood oaths taken by other members of your family that you may not know about. Anything that is holding you or your bloodline back, you can follow these instructions and you can break that invisible disadvantage. Okay? So that's voiceofjamaica.com. In the menu, you click on My Voice and you will have those instructions. If you find it beneficial, our spirit know our tribe when we see them. Yeah. So if you find this to be beneficial, then you can go ahead and follow the instructions. If it does not, you simply move along, right? This can only affect you. It cannot affect anyone else, unless, of course, someone is climbing on your back and draining your energy, right? So that is it for tonight. We will continue again on Sunday evening. I think we're going to start Sunday evening at 5. We're going to start a little bit earlier so that we can cover more material. All right? Big up on yourself. Lawful, always. Good night.